Hey guys, what's up? It's Law coming back to you with another episode of Car Rides with Law. And what can I say? Today, I think I actually have a semblance of an organized topic that I want to get into. Now, still may not end up shaping out that way, of course. You can never expect that with Schla. But I guess I wanted to get a little bit into dating dynamics and kind of my opinions about it in some ways that I think are pretty interesting. Some things that I guess I'm fairly passionate about talking about. So, something I come into, it just comes up when I talk to people a lot and in past experiences with relationship stuff, is we do live in a equal society when it comes to genders, or at least that is the expectation nowadays, right? It is an expectation that a man and a woman gets paid the same and things are as equal and fair as possible. I think there are a lot of people who feel as though if you could, you would just make it so that men and women make the same amount of money. I think a lot of people agree with that. Well, honestly, I think as time is going on, I think potentially less people agree with that. And I actually think it may be women more so than men. As crazy as that sounds. Just kind of based on the conversations I've had with people, there's definitely a lot of women who claim they want to be provided for, despite, again, what I think the liberal expectation has been. As we, at this stage in society, obviously things are equal, and there's a lot of people who are very vocal about that. But when it comes down to what people actually want, I don't know. I think there's a lot of evidence that shows, and again, it's not even men necessarily wanting it. It seems like women do. Women don't want to work or want to be provided for and things like that. And I think it's kind of silly. My honest opinion about it is I do think both genders should be as productive as possible. And I think a lot of women who claim they want this may not really want it. I think they may just be using it as a way to cope with some kind of mental illness, or mainly being depression, anxiety, lack of a motivation for something. A woman may not know what they want in life, and so you can lean on these traditional gender roles because they are so biologically imbued in us to sort of avoid that conversation. Oh, do I need to go see a therapist, or could I just get a man to pay for everything, right? And I think it becomes particularly problematic in a society that we've created. Because in the past, when there was more of a clear pay gap, I do think, and I haven't really looked into the statistics of this, but obviously there was a time women didn't even work, and obviously it would have been easy for a man to provide because there was hardly even an expectation that women would work, right? So it would have been easy. Nowadays it's not easy because every structure in society views men and women as completely equal in terms of the economic side of it. There's not these embedded systems in place that support that kind of a relationship. When it comes to health insurance, I assume it is the same price for both a man and a woman. And I would assume that's the case. Like at my company, they just make it the same amount. I think so. Now, of course, when it comes to car insurance, us men get the sore end of the stick, and I don't think that's fair, but I just think men are, a portion of men are risk takers, and they kind of mess it up for everybody. That's my impression, because I am not a risk taker when it comes to driving, drive very carefully. So there's a precious black, brand new Range Rover. I like it a lot. I'm not sure which model, though. It could have been the Evoque. Not too sure. But anyways, to get more into my ideas about this, we live in an equal society. In some ways now, it's, I think, harder than ever to argue to the contrary, because women in the 18 to 29 age bracket are actually out-earning men in the 18 to 29 age bracket. So if you're just looking at the data, it's obvious that we no longer live in a society where it should be expected for a man to provide. It just doesn't make any sense. Even if wages were relatively equal, that's not fair. It doesn't make any sense at all. At least to me, it doesn't. I think if you have a society where wages are equal, then if you go on a first date, then you should split the bill. Just because that's the nature of what it is. I mean, that whole idea of a man paying is coming from a time where it's just a totally different time, where there were different standards and expectations. So you can't just continue some of those expectations which only existed due to a myriad of other prior traditions. You can't just maintain those but keep incomes the same. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, if a woman doesn't work as much as a man, or if women aren't going to college as much as men, and you look at data and you see, wow, on average, oh my gosh, like I'm making way more money than a woman, and I work hard, oh yeah, of course, I think it would make sense to have that standard. And as far as I'm concerned, that was the case back when that standard was put into place. So obviously nobody looks at things with this degree of nuance, and that's part of the problem. A lot of people haphazardly come up with opinions. I don't even think people are aware of real statistics. I've never personally talked to anybody who is as statistically knowledgeable as me. That's not to flex or anything. It's just a lot of times when I have a take about something, I'm basing it off of my own accurate understanding of things, which I know to be accurate. And I know because I'm aware of the statistic. And then another person will say, oh, no, like, that's fine. That would work. That's what a lot of people tell me. But the truth is it doesn't. It doesn't end up working. But people don't understand because it's really difficult for people to quantify things, at least in my experience. It's very hard for somebody to understand, oh, given this economy, it's only maybe 10 to 20% of men who earn enough money to provide for two people. It's only 10 to 20%. I don't even know if a lot of people have a concept of that readily available, which is obviously a problem, but it's what it takes in this society. Is you have to be able to look at data, quantify it, and understand reality, because we live in a complex society. I think it's very crucial for a democracy in particular, where you're voting on a lot of these issues, and for culture's sake, it all goes hand in hand. And this is why I think democracy is eroding, because we're sort of seeing this surge of ignorance and surge of stupidity, and people not really understanding reality or how things work, and making opinions about things just in their own self-interest and not in terms of what's actually fair or not. I mean, this is important stuff, because then if you set a standard that I think is absolutely unrealistic in this day and age, and then you penalize men for not being able to hit it, you're just going to come up with issues in the dating market, because women are going to expect it, but it's not going to be feasible to average men. It's, again, like I said, maybe only the top 20%. So a lot of this stuff I just don't think is fair, and I think it's very reasonable that, again, in a equal income society between genders, you would just split the bill, or not even just split the bill. Why wouldn't you just pay for, like, what you got? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand. Like, if you're not in a relationship with someone, especially if it's a first date, I just can't believe. I think it's a good question to basically sift out people. Like, if you're gonna date someone and they say, oh no, I do expect the man to pay on the first date, I don't know. I think depending on the person, I would probably stay away. Now, I guess if they're really special, then maybe they have the ability to say that. But I think most women should not say, as most men. I don't think a girl should be paying for my bill. But I guess I'm totally fine with shattering a lot of the gender roles, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like it's all a mess, and I'm just judging things logistically. And it's a shame, but yeah, I mean, people don't see it that way, and that's why I guess this video could be controversial, even though I'm not really. I guess I think men are men have their own issues too. I guess so. I've been coming at women a lot. I think the issue with men nowadays is, I think some of them still may expect a woman to do things like clean or do chores and things like that. I don't really think that makes any sense either. Like, we live in a very monetary society, so I think there's a lot of men who have fantasies of, oh, I'm going to be able to provide for a girl, and they can just stay in the house all day and clean and do all this stuff. But it's not valuable enough. Like, we're at the point where that is not you'd still be in your best interest to just have a woman who worked. You know? That's just the truth of the way society is now. Money is the paramount thing. It's not necessarily someone who can clean. So I think for men need to be fully independent now. I think that's the expectation. Because, again, we do live in an equal society. So when it comes to a lot of these things, like being able to cook, being able to clean, being organized, being on top of things for yourself, some things that men can struggle with, they need to be able to do them. A man should be able to cook completely on his own. A man should be able to do his own laundry in this day and age, because that would be the expectation given the equal wage. A lot of men, I think, still are also stuck in the past and expecting things. I don't know. And I think a lot of women, it's just unattractive. And that's why it's intrinsically unattractive, because at this point, if you're really going to be dominant or a provider, then you would need to be able to cook yourself. You would need to be able to do your laundry yourself. And, I think a lot of those expectations are kind of silly. I guess I'm being a little cold now, because there probably is a lot of girls who may still want to do those things for their man. And I mean, that's cool, but you have to be very logical and fair about things. I think that's what people don't do. People like to, again, cherry pick. They like to cherry pick expectations, and I don't think that's right. So some expectations they keep, some they don't, and it ends up not being fair. And like I said, I think it's very difficult for people to quantify a lot of this stuff. I think that's part of the problem. Humans are just not too interested in it. People just want to find love, and in a way, love needs to be natural. It can't really be logical, but when you've messed up a bunch of people through creating these interactive interfaces like social media, where you're totally seeing people who were probably way out of your league on TikTok or YouTube even, and You just listen to a lot of these people, and you get your own opinions about things based on that, and you hear certain perspectives and whatnot. And yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm trying to make a judgment call because I believe a police car is approaching, and I'm trying to get over, but this person's not being too kind. So because they're not listening, even though I have my turn signal on. It's like crazy. All right, well, it didn't matter because they were in the shoulder, so. But seriously, I mean, these people, you put a turn signal on, you listen to it. If somebody has their turn signal on, stop what you're doing. Anyways. I know a lot of things people complain about too is like, oh, imagine taking someone to McDonald's on a first date. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. In this economy, there's no way people are making fun of that. Absolutely no way. It's just, what is life at this point? Are we that materialistic and shallow that it matters the building that, oh my goodness, these concepts, and a lot of these people who have these standards are like, get over yourself. I mean, what do you do with your life? You know what I mean? That's part of the problem. I think it's an ego issue. I mean, people who are living in poverty, yeah. I mean, why do you even have to go out to eat on a first date? What's wrong with doing something that doesn't even cost money? You know what I mean? It is so insane how egotistical people have gotten, and just such warped expectations. And again, I guess a lot of this is coming at women, but I'm not saying it's exclusively women. Social media warps men's expectations as well. It is not exclusively that. I think a lot of it's also not individual gender's fault. Like I don't think I'm blaming women. I'm blaming society. I think it's society's fault. It's not like a specific gender's fault. I think there's been a lot of environments that have been made that are not conducive to humans, you know, and I guess when you break it down by gender, you get a bit more specificity as to each problem, perhaps. But I don't know that, you know, I don't want to sit here and say that, like, because I don't think that's productive. I don't think it's very productive to just tell somebody, oh, it's women's fault, or oh, it's more men's fault. I don't think it's conducive to anything. So I'm not trying to do that. I just want to make that clear. But it's just things I realize, or the things I'm aware of as a man. I guess that's just my kind of perspective on things. I don't know. I think, again, to go more with the social media part of it, there are these platforms. And I think I talked about this fairly recently, but I'm talking about it again just because I'm pretty passionate about it. There are a lot of these reality TV shows or influencers on social media who have completely unrealistic lives. These are people likely in the top 10 or 20%. Specifically, when you look at the casts, when they cast people for reality TV, it's not realistic. They're not casting people to make a realistic show. They're casting people to make an entertaining show. So you're seeing, and attractive people too. They specifically look for people who would be good for a show, which means they appear pretty well and they look either attractive or interesting, because it's not just about attractiveness, it's about having a striking appearance for something like reality TV. Sometimes people who are a bit strange looking, it's all about character, and it's about their character in terms of their personality and their character in terms of their appearance, of course. And you're seeing the upper echelon. You're not seeing regular people. This is like the top. I said 20%, but I feel like that's being a little bit generous. And same goes for TikTok. I have a feeling, and I haven't seen the statistics on this, but it's probably only the top 10% at most people on TikTok who actually make content that people watch, who are actual influencers. Same with YouTube. Most people are not influencers. Most people don't even bother to post. The people who do end up posting, I think, give up after a while. Like, I just saw that statistic. Most podcasts don't make it past episode 2. It's like 90% don't make it past episode 2. So even what I'm doing and the level of commitment I've had to keep going at it despite zero audience, it's something. I'm pushing it, because this is life. This is literally, there's nothing better to do. This is life. We're pushing it. But anyway, so you're seeing all these people who are just upper echelon. They're the most eloquent, the most charismatic, the best at speaking. They can just bombard you with words. Like I said, I feel like I'm there in terms of speaking ability, or at least speaking potential. I know I can be a little rough as it is right now, but I'm trying to work on that, and I'm hoping in the future I can get better. But still, that being said, I don't encounter many people who are as linguistically talented as me. So I am cognizant of that. I am grateful for that. I do think my speech is good. And I don't know. I'm not ignorant to that, or it's not an ego thing. It's just important to be recognized. And so you're seeing these people, like, I'm making content, yeah, but I'm not an average person. I'm not just some average random person with a camera and a microphone. I'm not. You can tell that, but again, people don't realize that. So when they see people, they internalize it as if they're them, and they can relate to them just out of, I don't know, naturalness or intuitiveness. They just see these people talking and go, oh yeah, I agree with that. Oh yeah, I think that makes sense. But you're basing things off of people who are just in the upper echelon. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. I can't stress that enough. And so you have a whole generation of people who are mostly, I would honestly say, and I keep meaning to look this up. I know I just said it yesterday. I want to know, in terms of words spoken, right? Because obviously conversation doesn't really occur when you listen to a podcast or go on TikTok or go on YouTube. What I'm very curious to know is what percentage of words experienced by people actually come from a conversation anymore. Or do most people get more words from podcasts or from AI or from TikTok, hearing things, hearing pre-recorded words? How many people are most of their interactions actually real people, real human beings conversing? Because I know I asked about it with a call, but I think, and I've been meaning to make this video too, it is fundamentally changing the way we interact and the dismissiveness of people, because they're so used to passively listening to podcasts and things. People hardly actively listen to things anymore. Just always got stuff running, right? You always got a podcast playing, and then you listen to an hour-long podcast and you hardly remember a thing you heard on it. And that's going to change the way you interact with others, because you're used to that almost sleep, totally dissociated state when you're hearing words. And so I think when it comes to, again, then when you actually do need to talk and the pressure's on, you're much less capable of doing it, because you're used to the intoxicating nature of somebody speaking to you. You don't have to yourself grow and cultivate these skills. Like I said, I did not get to where I'm at by chance. I told y'all, I've spent time talking to myself purposely to build this. And like, I lost my dream for a while. I lost hope. I was nervous. I don't know what it was, but I always had this dream of being a speaker. And so I'm not just able to do this out of nowhere. It didn't just happen out of nothing. It was cultivation. It was direct cultivation and intent. So if you are intentionally, it's really unintentionally, sorry. If you're unintentionally avoiding interactions and instead just listening in a very passive way, you are not going to grow as a speaker. And I think this will continue to be the case. I think more and more people who are younger are just not going to know what to say, just don't know how to communicate properly. You're already seeing it. I think even a lot of people in my age, because you just get so inundated with so much audio stimulus, you're like overstimulated, and then you can't come up with words because you're just used to being told stuff. That's really the main problem, right? And this is becoming so widespread. People take the easy road. People take the easy route. But it all comes back to being cognizant of a fair society and what that entails. And no, I don't agree with it at all. If you're making equal wages, then you split the first date. Now, I think once you're serious with someone and you want to have that conversation, and if the guy's okay with it, sure, that's fine. Like if a guy wants to provide, but I don't see why a guy should just risk that out of the gate. I just think it's crazy expectations, because then you think about what a guy's got to do in general. We're also supposed to be rich. And so how are you going to get rich if you're paying for all these first dates that don't even amount to anything? I mean, and again, to be rich in comparison to, there's probably girls who are richer than guys now. But it's all over the place. I don't know. I just feel like it's not fair, and it comes to a lack of cognizance. But a lot of these social issues, I think, stem from a lack of cognizance. It's a lot of people who are haphazardly trying to preserve their self-interest. And I think both genders do that. And they don't realize that, but I think subconsciously that's what's going on. It's both genders want to preserve their self-interest. And it causes problems because people don't understand the state that society's in and the expectations that come with that. If you want a fair, civilized society, money is the way to get there now. It's not, no, you can't just stay at home and cook and clean. No, you got to provide some cash too. That's the expectation that culture, and I guess you could say the government, I mean, whoever you want to say, like I said, I mean, it's probably a matter of both, right? Because, I don't know if there was ever a law prohibiting women from working, but again, government, culture, whatever it is, and it's just confusing for people to navigate. But like I said, I'm a futurist, and I don't think we have to necessarily revert back to tradition. I don't think we necessarily have to revert back to tradition. But I do think that if we're not going to revert back to tradition, people need to have their heads screwed on straight and understand what it means to be in an equal, fair society. And I'm fine with either way, right? So I try to be flexible. I think I'm cool with the fairness, but I don't know that I'd mind going back to traditional. I feel like I kind of think a lot of traditional things kind of make sense. But I think the liberal things make sense too. I don't think it's a crazy idea that if you go out to eat, you just pay for what you eat and the other person pays for what they eat. I don't see a problem with that. I don't really think anybody should. Especially for a first, I mean, you don't even know if you like the person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's crazy. I think it depends on the circumstance. I mean, maybe if you've been talking for a while. But yeah, I mean, what? Y'all Y'all are crazy, man. Y'all are out of y'all's mind. If people really disagree with my opinion, like, you're part of the problem. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it anymore. If you disagree with me, forget it. I'm being as reasonable as possible. I'm saying, hey, you want to keep things traditional? Let's make things traditional. You wanna keep things fair and equal? Let's keep it there. But don't, I got the right take. I know I'm right on this. And people just don't care. And people don't care about being right, or people don't care about being wrong. Like I said, it's just people being selfish and preserving their own self-interest, which is very, very sad and dumb, in my opinion. And I know I'm right on this issue. I just know I'm right on this issue. And I'm going to keep saying that just to prove it, But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a problem. Look, I'll go with the flow. But what I'm not going to be doing, I'm not going to be paying in full on the first date. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm not going to do. If I'm not, if there's anything I'm not going to do, that's what it is I'm not going to pay on the first date. That's what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I do think it's a lack of mathematical comprehension or something about how these societal systems work. And again, I think men are at fault too. I don't know. It's just broad human ignorance. I really don't think I truly do not think it's a gender issue. I don't think, men are at fault. I don't think women are at fault. I think it's this technology, man. It's all these gadgets and gizmos, man. Man, it's just all this craziness, man. You just can't, man. That's all it is, man. It's just society. It's these people. It's all these men, man. It's all these men telling us what to do, man. Man, it's just all these men, man. That's all it is, man. Man, nah, man. I'm gonna be honest though. It is what it is. Life is what life is, and hey, I guess if I gotta pay on the first date, maybe that's what I gotta do. Maybe that's just what's come down to. Maybe logic won't win. Maybe my nerdiness won't win. And you just sometimes got to do what wins. And maybe what wins is just totally unfair and silly. But all this lack of having kids is a huge problem. And I also don't like how society has things set up to where young people just get a huge middle finger. That is all young people get nowadays. We got to support y'all on Social Security. We got to support y'all on Medicare. We got to pay higher car insurance. Yo, chill. Give us a break. Our wages are also lower than y'all's. Man, young people are just beat down on. And we are the foundation of society. Without young people, it's over. Yeah, sure, old people got wisdom, but without young people, it's over, man. There's nothing. You got nothing without young people. Without young people, that's all y'all got. You know what I'm saying? This is crucial. This is important stuff I'm talking about. The old people got wisdom, but honestly, I think we're at the point where we're in the post-wise adult generation. I think I've talked about this before. The golden age did not produce... something was wrong. It did not produce very wise people. Like, y'all had it too good, and then I think there's just an expectation that things might get better, or things will continue, or, again, people are pretty bad at math, so I don't even think they understand. Here's what's actually interesting. I wonder how many people actually know how much their food cost is on a monthly basis, because I could tell you mine. Not down to the dollar, but I know it's about... Yeah, I know what it is. I'm not going to say it because that's private information. No, I'm joking. I've said it on episode before. I know how much I spend on groceries. I bet most people don't. I bet most people just like money goes in the account, money leaves. They don't know where it went. they don't know what happened to it. I think that's most people. I truly do. I think most people just, they don't know what they're doing. They got no clue. And so that, I think, is a very important point. And it all just comes down to awareness, and how I think that's part of the reason why capitalism is failing and why we didn't reach socialism. Because to reach socialism, you cannot be ignorant or unaccountable, because then the billionaires are going to win. And that's basically what happened. I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm saying it's not fair, but in a way, I think people had it coming to them. I just don't understand, And it's not even about parties. You could keep the Democrats and the Republicans, but it's a reflection of culture. These are the two parties that are there, and hey, maybe it's a statement on human psychology that you place two parties in front of them and just doesn't matter. They'll just go with whatever. But it's all reflection, I think. That's what I think. I think everything's a reflection of culture, and nobody wants to admit that. And no political movement does either, because it's not a winning strategy. You could never, I already said this before, neither party ever wins off of accountability. It wins off of blame. Both parties have villains. Both parties blame different people for the problems. No party says that you have to change or that you have to be better, which is really the truth. It's everybody's got to be better. It's not just one person who's a problem. It's not just one group of people. It's just everybody. And there's some groups who are vilified who maybe are incorrectly vilified. I think I've talked about that a lot before too. Sometimes it's just nonsense that is used in politics in a way to get votes, to rile people up. So I think it's all stuff that, I think a lot of people don't think about that, though. I mean, most people's cognition of politics is a fairly limited scope, at least in my experience. But hey, what do I know, right? What do I know? I'm just a young man in his 20s. That's all I am. A young man in his early 20s. What do I know? I'm sure that's probably my favorite thing about this show. I even think a year from now, I could look back at what I'm saying now and say, like, what was I on? Like in terms of my opinions and stuff. I'm sure things will change. That's what I like about the show, though, is it's recorded and it's documented. I think that's the coolest part, is I'm seeing these points I was at in my life, and I'm having direct access to what I was thinking around the time. And I just think that's, like, the coolest thing. I don't know. I wish I had it recorded sooner, but I guess that there's just going to be lost data. But here on out, things should be pretty regular. I think even if in a few years I can retire because my career takes off, I'll still be recording. Like, if anything, we're going to have even more documentation, because I'm sure if I didn't work, I would be recording more. I am sure. So sure of that. There's not a doubt in my mind. There is not. I would be recording so much content right now. But I hope my hours stay up. I'm fine with where I'm at now. I think it's just so good, and I hope my hours can just stay up. Because, man, it is good to just have something to pour your time into like that. Especially with the state I'm at right now, like, and kind of what I need as a person and what I need to develop and all that stuff. Just good to have an outlet of work. I'm grateful for it. I mean, a lot of young people probably aren't. A lot of people probably aren't, even old. But I think work's good. But then again, I'm privileged to have a job that I can tolerate. So that's the other thing. But also, I see things in the big picture so much. I think it's pretty easy for... Well, no. It's not easy. I don't want to... It's not easy, but I think it's easier for me to dissociate and just kind of figure like, oh, I should work more. Because I just see the end. I see the future, and I'm like, well, in the future, I want more money, so I want to work more now. Like I'm not, the present is just not, I'm either thinking about the past or I'm thinking about the future. I'm never thinking about the present. That's just, the present is not important. Well, it's not important to focus your time. Well, that's kind of terrible advice. Don't follow. If anything, it's a little bit more complicated, my lack of focus on the present. Because most people do, and it creates social confusion and assimilation. It causes assimilation issues with other people because most people can only think in terms of what's right in front of them, whereas I think more systemically. Anyways, I really like that episode, and you should too. It's binge schla, but now it's time to buy schla. See ya, schla.